Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Chicago Blackhawks franchise mode here in NHL 23. So in last episode, we had quite the retool at the draft. We managed to trade away quite a few players, and we managed to draft 10th overall and draft a player by the name of Ralph Canzanello, which I don't really know if it was worth necessarily moving up so much to get him. But I think at least our team has now kind of a new look roster in a sense, because you can see we still have like the exact same players for the most part, except for guys like Parker Bursch are going to be getting a bigger chance this year. He's going to get actually probably in the NHL. Huxley might be getting a chance as well this season. And then also, I think there was one other player, if I remember right. Oh yeah, well, Gustavo Brown might get a chance potentially. Same with like Corbett, because those guys are like fringe NHLers at this point. So there might be a lot of young guys getting into the roster with the older guys that we already have on a team. It's kind of crazy how this team went from being a really good playoff team and all that stuff and a lot of young players to now pretty much a lot of older guys. As you can see, we got a lot of guys that are 30 plus years old. We also got some guys that are no longer, like, later ages of 27, but also a lot of young talent still coming in through the minors, which is great. So at least our prospect pool has served us pretty well over these last like 10 plus seasons. But anyways, before we get into the free agency portion and also starting up the 2039-40 season already, I do have a couple comments to go over. So the first one is from I Love Geese, who says, I think you should release players when they ask for $4 million as like an 83 or less. Even Brossoit, I get he's a first liner, but 10.9 as an 87. And well, the only thing with that is I don't really agree with that, because of like I actually even told him, I was just like, the salary cap when it goes up, basically those type of contracts aren't as bad. Like if we look at the player search tool here, for example, let's see who the most expensive players are in the entire league, because I am very curious on who's the most expensive player in the NHL at this point. Because if we go to salary, 17.3 is the most amount of money somebody's making, and that's Anton Lundell, who's dropped off a lot. Obviously, he was a lot better in his prime, but after that, it's Connor Bedard, not a surprise. 96 overall making 17. Then you have a 91 making 15 and a Fanaganov. Langlaw's getting paid 15, so he got re-signed by Seattle, looks like. Sylvan Parks is making 14.5 as a 92. An 89 defenseman costs you like $14 million depending on how good they are. Tutu's making like 14. Nicolishin. See, it's not really that bad when you go through it, because a lot of these, like, is there any 87s around this point other than Brossoit? There's like 86 overalls, like Holtman getting 12.9. So I think it was a good deal for us. Obviously, it's a little bit steep for that Brossoit contract, but it's not really that bad. And then if we look at like, if we go down to the 83s, which I guess how could I just narrow this down to 83 overall players? Guess I'll have to scroll for a while. Let's take a look at the 83 overall players and see what most of them are getting paid as well, just because I am kind of curious on that. For a little something different for this episode. So the highest paid 83 overall player is probably just getting under $7 million, it looks like, with Sherov, also Mare on defense, Kiviharu. Sherov's definitely the most expensive 83 on offense, it seems like. And then you have some that are in the 4 range. You have actually Skilly, who used to play with us, making $7 million. So I honestly don't think what we gave to Corrado is outrageous. Maybe the term is a little bit outrageous, but in terms of like money he's getting paid, it's pretty much just around the normal. Anyways, that was that comment. Let's get into our next and final 2 comments from Michael Dost. The first one says, gotta love a hockey player named Ralph. Great job moving assets around too. I appreciate that. We had to move around quite a bit of players, like Spiller's gone on, I think it was not the Buffalo. I don't remember what team we moved all these players around to, but Spiller's gone. Who else did we move out? We let go of like players to free agency. Like for example, Howden is gone. He's no longer here, which is a big loss, I would say. It's gonna be interesting to see what this team ends up doing without him as the number 1 starter. And then finally, Michael says, let's take a look at available coaches. I lean towards replacing Kopitar, but only if you could find one that's good with the existing roster, especially youth if you plan on pulling up AHL guys. Like the roster, except not sold on the goalies, honestly. 80 and 81 goalies scare me. And I agree with that. I think the goaltending situation is probably the most scary part. I was thinking of maybe running these two guys for like the beginning of the season and seeing how they do, kind of like a trial run. And if they both don't do good, then we could trade them away. But if they do good, obviously you just keep rolling with them. But they're both listed as backup goaltenders. Hue obviously has just been an AHL goaltender, and he's been pretty solid at the AHL level the last 2 seasons. Then again, the AHL team's pretty stacked. And then Gustavo Blackburn was our backup last year, and he didn't put up really the respectable numbers, I'd say. Like an 897 is not really the best. He did win a lot of games and get points in a lot of games too, as you can see with the 7 OT losses. So I don't really know if he's the best goaltender to have up here as well. And then we also do have Tayupkin in the minors, who's getting very close. I might sign another goaltender just as a fail-safe option. So, like, basically I sign maybe another 82 overall goaltender. We run the 82 in Hue for a bit, see how Hue's doing as the backup. If he doesn't do good enough, we turn to Blackburn. If Blackburn's doing better than him, we keep Blackburn, we trade Hue, and then we keep the other goaltender as well, just as like kind of a fail-safe. I think that might be a better option than letting those guys play a little bit early into the season, especially with the young defensive core in front of them like Kachuk, Del Monte, Hutton, even Komachi if he gets in. And then Yokel and Morris are still relatively young. Burnstrom's getting up there in age, so I think we'll sign a goaltender and maybe one depth forward just to play it safe, so we have at least some depth on offense. And I think that's all we'll probably sign in this episode, and we'll get obviously to the season simulations. So let's get to free agency, see what there is available. Let's get first a depth forward. I'm not going to sign any big name free agents this year other than maybe a goaltender. That's probably it. Just because I just don't feel like spending a lot of money. We need to have that money available at all times. There's a lot of former players in free agency, which is funny, but we're just looking for a depth forward here. If there's anybody decent. Oh yeah, I did write down a guy's name, but I don't know if I'm going to bring him in or not. I was looking at Pierre Brodeur, but $3.4 million might be a bit pricey. He does have really good shooting categories, and this guy has been good in the past. Like, he has had a 30-goal season a few years ago, but he won't be getting the same type of ice time with us, more than likely, is the only thing. But, I mean, he would probably replace, like, if somebody got injured in the top 6, he could be a good replacement and maybe score a good chunk of goals. So I might be still leaning towards him, to be honest. Is this guy UFA? No, he's an RFA. I was going to say. Or there's Godfrey. Godfrey's decent defensively, got good face-off stats, former first-round pick. How's his stats? 33 points last year, and that was his rookie season at the age of 24, I guess. Only played in the AHL playoffs before that. Doesn't really have a lot of experience under his belt, but he does have really good passing, too. Huh. That's interesting. We do have a decent amount of good shooters, I feel like, on this team. I feel like getting a good face-off man as depth would be actually not a bad option. He's actually asking for right around the same as Brodeur. Like, those face-offs being at 84 is kind of nice, because if he needs to come into the lineup, he can win draws, and that would be very helpful for this team. So, yeah, you know what? We're going to go after Godfrey, I think, instead of Brodeur. I do like Brodeur's shooting category, but I just don't know if he's going to be really getting much of a chance with us. And, wow, okay, the Islanders and Montreal are also interested in Godfrey. Let's just up it a little bit. He's only 25 years old. Let's do 1 year at 3.5, see if he accepts that. If not, we could always try and find another depth option instead. And then goaltending-wise, we don't want somebody too good for goaltending. We do not want somebody too bad either, though. How good is Perry? I'm going to look at some of these goalies' stats and see who's the best of them bunch. 9-12 for who was that? Oh, that's, of course, Aiden Howden, our former goaltender. Jim Scavello, look at that, our former goaltender as well. He was in the AHL last year after he left us. Really good at the AHL level. Darling, medium elite at 25. 921, is that NHL-wise? That is NHL-wise, wow. Stanislav Artukin was, he's been really good at the NHL level the last 2 years. With New Jersey, he had a 917 last year. He only lost 1 game in regulation through 20 games. And he had a 921 save percentage. But then before that, you go before his AHL stints, he had 1 game in Montreal where he was absolutely trash. Allowed 3 goals on 14 shots. And then he also had some other games in Montreal where he wasn't that good. But that was when Montreal was a bad team, and now they're a really good team. So How was his playoff numbers, out of curiosity? Not really that great last year, though. He was pretty good in the one little bit of a game he played with Vegas. You know what? Let's take a chance on our Tukin. I know he's the same pretty much overall as our other goaltenders, but let's bring this guy in on a 1-year deal. And he's basically going to be playing with the others. So we're going to have like 3 low overall goaltenders, but one of them's got to work, right? One of them's got to work. At least I would hope so. We could have brought back Rudy Pitton if we wanted to, but yeah, that's going to be our only like signing. It's not really a major signing, but we'll just hope it can get our team some wins. So let's begin to sim up to next season and see if those 2 guys accept, which hopefully they do. And we're not trying to make any trades, so thank you though AI. I might actually have to adjust my block so I don't get as much trade offers, because I just know that in the offseason you just get too much trade offers, especially when they throw a lot of your prospects on the block. So Godfrey's accepted our offer, so there is our depth forward, and our Tukin is accepted as well. It shows him in the AHL right now, but that's not going to be the case. I'm trying to trade for an 89 overall goaltender because I know that they do not usually work out, so we're still getting a lot of trade offers even with me removing players from our block. It's kind of annoying. I wish there was a way just to, well actually there is I guess a way to just turn off trade offers. I should probably just eventually do that because most of the time I only come up with my own offers, but in the off season it's kind of nice to get some offers, but not like one every single day. So hopefully we can get to the start of the season soon. We also do have a couple RFAs still holding out, so I will have to give them some contracts soon. Probably in August. Jeez, yeah, we're getting too much offers here. Like a new offer a day. These GMs are more busy than the NHL GMs in real life. Okay, wow. Sweat and Quinn Hughes. That's funny. That's a lot of cap to take on. But Quinn Hughes is really good. Oh, Zubris has been offer sheet comp thing by Toronto. I am going to match this, obviously, but we could get a 3rd round pick. But the 3rd rounder is not really anything to me. But yeah, let's match this offer. That's a 3-year deal for Zubris, which kind of sucks because I believe by the end of that he's a UFA. So I kind of hate that Toronto just went and did that. I'm surprised that Martins hasn't gotten any offers from other teams yet, since he's an RFA still. I could have traded for Gunderson in Arizona, but I don't really know. If any of these goaltenders don't work, then we will always look for maybe a trade at the deadline or a little bit before the deadline to hopefully bolster a goaltending situation a bit, because we could easily trade away 2 of these goaltenders or 1 of the goaltenders. So let's get Martin signed up because he is an RFA still. There you go. 1-year deal. Bang. But yeah, Zubris is getting a 3-year deal. I was not hoping that would be the case because, yeah, he's a UFA at the end of it. But at least we have him locked up on a decent money. I think it's not too expensive for like a 4th line guy / 3rd liner at the best. So I don't mind that offer, but still. There we go, and Martins is accepted. Perfect. So we'll get our team set up here shortly. And also, I forgot to mention, oh yeah, I did mention actually that Michael was looking for a new coach. We are going to look at the start of the season. I meant to say that after that words, but I forgot completely. We'll look at the start of the season for a new head coach potentially and see if there's a better fit, because it's easier to tell more so when we have a roster actually set in stone ahead of time. So let's call up the right players. So while Leonardo Knights is an NHL defenseman, I don't think he plays in the NHL yet, but very close to it. Corbett and McNabb, one of them will probably be a depth forward in the NHL. I think 1 more year for Gustavo Brown in the AHL might be necessary, so I'll keep him down there. Who do I want to call up as the depth option now? Let's go with McNabb since he was the higher up pick. We'll call up McNabb. And do I have to send anybody down? I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. I'll just go best AHL lines here, and let's go to... Yeah, that looks fine actually in the AHL. Yeah, we'll just leave the AHL stuff right now the way it is. The NHL won't get adjusted yet until I see a coach that might fit our team a little bit better than Kopitar. If there isn't any, I might just honestly keep Kopitar. Let's see, 65% for Kopi. Is there anybody that's a better than the 65? Lance Beckett, 61%. They also have to work really well with Asher Vance. That's the one thing I look for in a coach in this series, because if they don't work with Vance, it's not really worth it. 64% on Deneau, a little bit lower. 67 for Joe Pavelski. Doesn't really work well with the youngster in Tkachuk, but works really well with everybody else. Maybe I bring in Pavelski as like an assistant coach. Yeah, we do need an assistant coach. Let's bring in Pavelski as an assistant coach for now. But I'm going to also test him as our NHL head coach and see if he's the better of the two options. It'd be interesting having both Pavelski and Kopitar on our coaching staff, considering those two guys definitely played against each other quite a bit in their NHL careers. So Pavelski, hopefully you'll accept that, because you look like you might be a decent fit for our coaching staff. If he stays an assistant coach, that'll be okay. But if he's our head coach this season, that would also be pretty good. So let's advance a few days here. See if Pavelski accepts. And he has accepted, so welcome aboard, Joe Pavelski. Let's go to our coaching staff and adjust our lines with Pavelski as our head coach instead. I will temporarily demote Siglet to AHL assistant. And then we'll move Kopitar to the goalie coach for a temporary thing. Pavelski to the head coach. Let's see what our lines are looking like with Pavelski as head coach once we actually adjust it. So Adamski should be second line center. I think he has dropped off because of morale reasons, but we're still going to try and run him as a second liner for now. Gotta go with something like that, maybe. Martins is on the fourth line. No, it doesn't look great. Yeah, probably go something like that. Yeah, that looks decent. I mean, we have a +5 on the top line. It's not terrible. Obviously, the center depth is very concerning, though. Yeah, once Adamski goes back up, if he's not really that great, maybe we want to make some changes. I might want to honestly try running Vance as a center at one point for a full year. Because, yeah, Vance's face-off numbers have been really good. His takeaway numbers have also been getting better. So I feel like if Vance is at center, maybe he has a chance at a Selke, but I honestly don't know. I'm going to put him back to the wing for now, though, I think. And then, yeah, he doesn't really work with this defensive core as well, which kind of sucks. Oh, okay, there we go. That works better. Moving Hutton with Morris. Tkachuk is an 83, though. So he should be hypothetically higher up in this. Yeah, that's not great having Tkachuk down there on the top 6, unless he's getting first-line PK time. And Huey jumped up to an 83, so we'll run our Tukin as the backup, I guess, for Huey. And if Huey doesn't do good, we can always call up another goaltender for the minors. The other goalie from the minors, yeah. Maybe we won't do a three-headed goaltending thing, I don't really know. Kamachi is death, McNabb, and Godfrey, that's good. That doesn't look too bad. Let's take a look at the special teams, though, making sure the special teams looking good, too. Yeah, it's looking decent. No really negatives in chemistry right now. Just got to double check this, and then we'll also see, do I want to run with this guy or not? Oh, there's a -3 on that penalty kill unit. It's because of Hutton. I got to put Tkachuk on the first penalty kill. Oh, here he is. Okay, that's good. Let's move Lynn Morris to this third unit instead and move Hutton to the second unit just to see if that actually helps out something. Get rid of that minus a little bit. I think it only got rid of a tiny bit of it. That makes it -2. The penalty kill is not the best with the chemistry, but that's okay. Yeah, I think that's what we'll run with. I wanted to take a look, though, at how good of a fit this coach is, actually, once it actually has him in Pavelski. How good of a fit is Joe? Let's see. 66, so that's a little bit better than Kopitar. So I think we're going to try running Pavelski as the head coach. If he doesn't do well, we could always move Kopitar back to head coach. But instead of getting rid of Kopitar, he will be our assistant coach this year. And then we'll move Siglet back to our NHL goalie coach. And that's good. So that's going to be our coaching staff for this season. And we'll see if that ends up making our team better in the playoffs or not if we get there. Because who knows, maybe this team will take a step back. But I think everything's pretty good to go. I think. Let me just double check some stuff. Yeah, I don't really like our center depth as much, in a way. Like, Bursch, eventually he can be a great second liner, but Adamski, he is listed as a second line forward. He just is dropping off for morale reasons. So hopefully his morale goes back up, and then once his morale goes back up, hopefully he's able to produce there. If he's not able to produce, I might have to look for a second line center, because that's a little bit weak. The defensive core is very X-Factor heavy, though, which is kind of funny. And then goaltending is up in the air, obviously, on how good we're going to do. I think we're going to just run Huey, because obviously he's now a starter in our Tukin. Let me go to the AHL quickly. Blackburn's an 81. Technically, he's better than the other goaltender, but... and then we also have Tayukin as an 80. I guess I could run both of them in the AHL. I don't want to scratch Marsh, though. I have to scratch Blackburn down in the AHL here, because I want to get Marsh in. He's the low starter. But, yeah, basically I think we'll do 20-something games. We'll take a look at goalie stats, and if one of the goalies is not doing well in the NHL, i.e. the 80 overall we just signed, I might send him down and then also call up Blackburn. Because I honestly don't know. Any of these goaltenders could randomly just be a really good goaltender. So, there is that. Let's sim to the regular season. Not too focused on the preseason at all, because this team is a lot different than it was last year. So there is also, like, there's a lot of question marks if we're actually going to be as good as last year, because we definitely lost a lot of our depth. So I'm not going to take a look at where Howden and such signed yet, because I think I might leave that for like the end of the season when we're looking at like player stats and all that type of thing, I think. So okay, so let's advance to the start of the regular season. We're starting the season off on the road, it looks like. Yeah, we have a 2-game road trip, then we have a 3-game homestand, then a long road trip, it looks like, at least 6 games. Jeez. Having a lot of road games to start the year is not ideal. I mean, our team could probably win on both both home ice and away, but still, it's a bit weird. Let's go to November the 1st and see how we do in our first little bit of the season. Got to take it a little bit slower since our team is a little bit weaker than it was in the past. Yokel has already been injured. That's not great, but that will give Komachi a chance to play. But still, that's not a great injury to have this early in the year. Wow. Riddle, who's a 7... wow. Wait, actually, Tampa's got 2 goaltenders signed to $10+ million then, because they had Sweat. They also have Riddle signed to 10.8 or 10.6 for 7 years. And they're immediately trying to trade at least one of them. That's crazy. And now Hutton's been injured. That's 2 injuries to our defense core in the first month. That's not great. And definitely not ideal. And we're losing games because of that. But they are back already, which is great. At least one of them is. Yokel was already thrown in. That's a bit weird. Let's get Hutton in there. Let's get Yokel in there. Hutton's not fully healthy yet, but he should be soon. Gotta love defensive injuries, huh? There, now he's back to full health. We are off to a really bad start here, and I'm not exactly sure why. 2-6-1 in our first 9 games of the season. Vance is doing okay. He's not scoring as much, but he's over a point per game. So at least it seems like the top line seems to be doing stuff. But let me take a look at those goaltending numbers already. Yeah, that's not ideal there, Huey. An 884, and then our Tukin's barely played, and he's been terrible as well. Yikes. Yikes, yikes, yikes. What can we do? Because I don't want this team to lose so much. Because right now we're not doing too well. And Reefers is only at 3 points in 9 games. And he's dropped down to an exact top 6. So this might be one of Reefers' last seasons in the NHL. Didn't realize he was going to drop off so fast. And I didn't even realize Burnstrom dropped to an 87. He's listed as a top 4 now too. So those 2 guys could honestly retire in the next 2 seasons. Which is not ideal. Not ideal at all. What do we want to do? Bursch is still a 76. I thought he was a 78, it said. Oh, man. Let's get Bursch on the higher line because he's more offensive. I want more offensive guys in the right spots. Gustafsson, we're going to move to the 4th line as well because he's more defensive. We'll move Huxley up because he's more offensive. I just don't want any really offensive guys being in the 4th line when they should be just out there crashing the net. Or not crashing the net necessarily, but throwing hits and all that. Yeah, not an ideal start to the year. Let's go another 2 weeks and take a look and see if the goaltending numbers are improving or not, or if we start to win more games. But if we continue on this trajectory, I might not simulate a whole lot in this episode, just because this is kind of a bad start. One of our worst starts in quite some time. There's another loss, and it's another game where we allow a lot of goals. There's 2 wins in a row. We do score 8 goals there, which is nice, but yeah, we're not doing too well here. Parker Bursch has already been injured with a concussion, so the rookie is already out with an injury. And we're 4-11-2. Well, I don't know if the coaching change is necessarily helping. Vance has 10 goals in 17 games. He's over point per game. But something is not working well with this team. Let's take a look at the goaltending again. It's improving a bit, actually, but not by too much. Let me take a look at the defensive pairings. Who's really badly minus? Oh my goodness, Morrison Hutton. Yeah, it's Morrison Hutton. 2 of those guys do not work at all. God damn. Even though there's a minus here, I'm going to try just flipping it like this instead. Because Morris minus 16 in 17 games is absolutely tragic. And minus 8 in 16 games is also really bad. The rest of the defensive core has been okay, so. Yikes. Yeah, I think we'll go with that, even though there's a minus. Got to get that defensive pairings to start working a little bit. Any badly minus forwards? Okay, that third line. Or the fourth line, actually. Yeah, it's the fourth line mostly. Or, well, Ziska and Gustafson, so it was the third line originally, I think. Yeah, it was the third line originally. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. This might be the worst team I've seen in a while. Like, why are we doing so bad? Like, how is Vance over point per game and we only got 4 wins? I think I'm only going to go another 2 weeks till the end of this month, and then I'm going to stop simulating already. Because I think we need to make changes early in the season if we want to actually get back into the race, because we're falling apart quite a bit. Like, we're at 10 points. Wildcard's at 18, so it's not ideal. It's not too far off, but we need to be much better than this. Let's go to the end of this month and see if we can maybe turn it around a little bit here. There's a loss and a win. Another win. Okay. There's a shootout loss, so it's a point. Bursch is back. That's great to have Bursch back. This guy should be doing decent in his rookie season. He has some decent line mates. Another loss, and what does this one say? Another loss. Yeah, I think this team has fallen off randomly, and I do not know why. I don't know if it's because we have Pavelski as head coach, but this team is all of a sudden not doing good. We're now 9 points back of a wild card spot, and we only have 6 wins in our first 23 games. Not good. And I do not want players on this team to start losing morale. Yeah, I think we're going to definitely stop simulating here, and we have to take a look and see what we need to change up. But this team should not be doing this bad. It doesn't really look that bad on paper. Our Tugin's doing better. I don't like Huey's stats so at all. So I think we have to probably trade away Huey and find ourselves a better goaltender or something. Or try and get ourselves a better second line. Actually, the second line looks like it's doing okay. Let's take a look at player stats and see what lines are not doing so well. But, this is not ideal. Not ideal. Let's take a look at the standings quickly. Are we just giving up too much goals? Yeah, that's the problem. And offense has also been the worst in the entire Central Division. So we're not scoring enough in terms of depth. And we're also giving up way too much. Our power play percentage has also not been that good, and our penalty kill has been tragic. Okay, so I think we definitely need to stray away from Pavelski and maybe move Kopitar back to the head coach and see if that helps out. Because that penalty kill is not good at all. That might be one of the worst penalty kills I think this team's ever had. Because where do we fit in terms of the entire league for like offense and stuff? We are the 3rd worst offensive team in the league. Somehow Vance is still like point per game. We are also not the worst defensive team, but one of the worst. Power play percentage wise, not terrible, I guess. I don't really know. And penalty kill wise, we are the second worst team on the penalty kill by only 0.2%. Oh, okay. And wow, Vancouver is a really weird team. Terrible on home ice, but good on the road. Yeah, I honestly don't know what our problem is. Let's take a look at the player stats and see if we could find out what is the problem, what isn't. So yeah, Vance has been good. He's only a -1 as well. Reefers has been a bit quiet by actually right around the same pace probably. He's been good. Adamski has been solid. 10 goals is not bad for a second liner, but 14 points. Ziska's not been really that good. He's -9. Burst to rookies has not been that good either. Martins has not been good. So we definitely need to look in trying to upgrade our depth a bit maybe. Gustafsson has not been that great. Huxley's not been that great. Like the integration to youth hasn't been that good. Bersois, Corrado, and Recchi have been good. Zubris has been okay as well. See, I think it's just the youngsters that are kind of making his team fall apart a little bit. Like Gustafsson's not doing as well this year. Huxley's doing not that good in his first season. Martins is struggling. Burrish is struggling. Ziska, who's now 27, I guess, is struggling. What about defense? Brunstrom is kind of struggling, but he's still doing decent. He's dropping off, so that is very concerning still. Jokela is struggling a lot. This guy said, hey, let me get paid and then not do anything hardly. 6 points in 22 games. Hutton's not been that great defensively. Del Monte has been good defensively. Somehow a +7 on his team. Len Morris has been absolutely tragic. Maybe this was the offseason we were supposed to move him away instead. He has -22 in 23 games. That's a big outlier right there. I think we need to do something with the defensive core maybe to try and get it to be a little bit better. And then Kachuk has been solid defensively. Kamachi hasn't really played much. Goaltending wise, Huey's not been that good. Artukin's been better. I honestly don't know what we need to address. I think the defensive core might be the first thing. Move out Len Morris, get Kachuk into the top 4, and then find maybe another defenseman. But we do actually have Leonardo Knights in the minors we could call up, so we could obviously make a lot of changes, but I don't really know on what is the key thing we need to address. If it's goaltending, if it's defense, it's tough to tell. That's not good. That is not good at all. How much goals is Vance on pace for again, though? 12 goals in 23 games. I guess he's still on pace for a really good season, but he obviously needs to try and get this team to score more goals. We only have 2 guys that have scored 10 or more goals, so that's where it's a bit problematic, because nobody else has 10 goals. Yikes. Okay, so there's that. I normally would go up to January the 1st or something around, but with this team being as bad, I don't think it's worth it. Let's do a final few things to wrap up this start to the season. Let's go to the... Let me actually take a look at the draft class for a second. The first overall pick's just an elite player. I was going to say, if it was a franchise player, maybe I would take 1 year off and not make the playoffs, but it's only a sniper that's supposed to go first overall here. Yeah, we don't know really that much about this draft class yet because we're really early on still. I hope we have still a good season. I don't know if we're going to make the playoffs at this rate, though. This is a very terrible start, so let's take a look at the trading block. We'll also look at the contract situation because maybe that will help us find out who we need to move away a little bit more. And then I think that will be it for this episode at this point. But let's take a look and see if there's anything interesting on the block that can maybe turn the tides of the season a little bit. Some prospects in Anaheim. Gunderson still, if we want to bring in a starter, like an actual legit starter. He's playing in the AHL. So, yeah, Jude Gunderson might be what I was looking for. Yeah, because he should be in the AHL as an 86 overall. So, Gunderson, trying to trade for him might be something decent for us. We get rid of one of the goaltenders that we have in the system in a pick. Maybe it could work. Our former player Patterson's on the block in Buffalo. That's funny. How's he doing? He has not played this season, but last year he had 44 points. It's pretty impressive. Roloff, who's a good sniper apparently, but only an 83. Trying to look for somebody in budget that could help us out potentially. Like, I think that goaltender would be good, but he is getting paid a decent chunk of money. That's the only problem with it. And it's for, I think, 2 years. Moses, but he's getting paid $11 million for the next 3 years. He's a medium elite power forward, not doing too well. Don't know why. Probably that offensive awareness is holding him down a little bit. Curry, not that bad. Some depth kind of guys. Bales is now in Edmonton. Huh. So there is kind of like bottom 6 kind of options, which is good if we want to upgrade that. There's Krajcek, but he's getting paid 9.8. That's a bit too much. Mara's a defenseman. He's on a 5-year deal. Festerling, Solovyov. Like, if we want to make a defensive change, because I think Len Morris might have to go, we definitely could try and trade him for another defenseman, or we could always just call up Leonardo Knights, but that makes our defense score a little bit weaker overall-wise. So, Montreal, nothing really there. Nashville, nothing really there. New Jersey, it's a lot of prospects, which is not great, because we're looking more for roster players. Skilly, getting paid a bit too much. Vernarski, getting paid too much probably. Jocelyn on defense, too much money. Our former defenseman Niedemaki's now in Ottawa, and he's getting paid 6x6. Jeez. He's actually doing really well this year, though. 15 points in 24 games. Definitely on pace for a career year. Sugihara, getting paid 6. Yeah, a lot of these players are getting paid quite a bit, but we might have to look for some sort of a big change. Also, Lidman would be an okay goaltender. 86 overall, 1 year left. Hasn't been very good this year, though, so far. So he might be just as good as the other goaltenders that we have right now. Never played in the playoffs in his career. And he's never really had a good regular season. So, the only good regular season he had was his rookie year. Every other year was like an 890 something save percentage. Interesting. Lowry's over there in Pittsburgh. That's cool to see. Yeah, I don't know what we want to move in and what we want to move out. Because if we want to make the playoffs this year, we definitely need to move something out. If we don't want to make the playoffs this year, we could easily just have 1 year where we just simulate bad, maybe get a good prospect in, and we'll see where that leads us. But, yeah, I'm definitely not taking on that Riddle guy. 7 years is a bit too much at that cost. He's playing like backup role, looks like, too. Because Sweat is also there. Like, Tampa's paying a lot of money to goaltenders right now. Reynolds is a bottom 6 option. He's a 78. Hasn't been that bad, actually, this year. 10 points in 21 games. Not really a huge NHL player, but still great offensive awareness and passing. It's kind of interesting. Don't want Albrecht because that contract we know is bad from last year when we looked at the block, I'm pretty sure. A lot of defensemen there in Vancouver on the block. Corson on 1 year, 34 years old though. Tutu, who's making a shit ton of money, is on the block. Not a surprise. How good is this guy doing? 15 points, 22 games, not bad. Not bad, but still $14 million. Too much. Fortier. That's not a bad contract, and he's got 1 year left. Has been playing pretty well so far. He is a sniper that's passing the puck, it looks like a lot more, though. Former 8th overall pick of the Nashville Predators. 50 points last year. 6 points in 7 games in the playoffs a few years back. This guy's decent, but I don't really know where I would put him unless we were to get rid of somebody. Yeah, so there is that. I do want to take a look at what it would cost us to get somebody like Gunderson or that Lidman guy in Pittsburgh, though. Because I think those would be the best bets for goaltenders. The thing with Gunderson, like I said, he is getting paid for 2 years. They do have 3 goaltenders that are 89 to 86. That's insane. That is insane. Let's go to Trade Finder and see. No open trade found. Wow, okay. Maybe it's because I don't have anything on the block, but I think we'd have to move one of our 3 goaltenders, obviously. And then we could probably get him. But yeah, Gunderson might be ideal. Ledman, let's see what he got. He's only got 1 year left. No trades found. Okay. Well, that kind of sucks. I was hoping at least we get thrown an offer. And final thing, let me show you guys again the contract situation so we can see maybe who we should trade away. These are guys that are expiring. Mostly RFAs, which is good in terms of that, but in terms of guys that are signed for like multiple seasons that we can move away. Well, Reki, for example's, I would like to hold on to some of these guys. Some of them are doing really well. I don't know about Corrado's contract right now because how was he doing? 17 points, 23 games. That's actually not that bad. Right now, he's living up to that contract. But I do think Len Morris, moving him, might be a good option. Let me actually take a quick look at what we could get for Len Morris, if any trade offers just randomly come through. But I think moving Len Morris and then maybe finding another defenseman instead would be better for this team, for the top 4. Because I don't want to really necessarily move Leonardo Knights into the NHL just yet. Next season, probably for sure, though. So if we move Len Morris, we could get Gunderson. Interesting. But then we'd still need a defenseman. Roll off on 5 years, no thank you. Bring back Bales for Morris, that'd be funny. So we could get Len Morris for Gunderson, but I would probably try and find a defenseman as well involved. So we get a little bit more cap for less term, though. And that might be worth it. That might be worth it. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Chicago Blackhawks franchise mode. So in next episode, we look to try and maybe flip the script a little bit and hopefully get our team back into being in the playoff hunt. We'll probably try and get the rest of the season done next episode, depending on how this team's doing still. If you guys want to go the tanking route and we end up missing the playoffs instead, we could always do that. And we could see if we are able to get ourselves a really good prospecting, because we don't have that stud prospect really. But we do have our first rounders still this year, which is good. So, anything down below, and I'll see you guys next time.